Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Wow Me Wednesday. I recently got back from New York City and I was surrounded by the glitz and the excitement on Broadway, and it made me realize how much I love and appreciate theater and the performing arts, and how much that I've learned through just being a theater goer. While I'm kind of bummed I didn't get to see any shows on Broadway for this trip, I have seen a couple of amazing shows on stage recently, one of them being The Sound of Music, one of my favorite musicals of all times. I know all the songs. And also an improv show by Colin Mochrie and Brad Sherwood, a couple of guys from Whose Line Is It Anyway? So while I am no actress by any means, I feel like there are some valuable lessons to learn by being an observer in the audience. So here are 5 tips that I'd like to share with you that I've learned by being a theater watcher, goer. All right, the first tip is to feel your words when you're giving a presentation. While you will know your content inside and out, preferably because of all the preparation and practice that you've done, you still want to feel the words that you're saying and not just recite them just because you know them so well. Like I've mentioned many, many times, storytelling is vital in your presentations, whether in person or on camera. And when you're telling these stories, you really need to take yourself back to those moments. So these stories, preferably of your own experience, so that you can think back on what it felt like, what it smelled like, and share those sensory images and words with your audience. So feel those words. When I give my presentations about public speaking tips, I often share about a time when I was a rookie reporter and I messed up horribly on live TV and how painful and miserable that was. And so thinking back to that time, I remember that pit in my stomach of failure and relive that so that I can share that with my audience. I'm not just reciting and just reiterating over and over again, but I'm reliving that moment. Tip number 2, on the flip side, while you're feeling your words, you don't want to overact. It's pretty obvious when you're overly dramatic and you're using big arms and maybe you're just acting out of the ordinary. You still want to be authentic. You still want to be yourself and also speak conversationally. You can be full of expression while sharing a story, just like you would if you were talking one-on-one with a friend, without being overly dramatic, right? So think about still speaking conversationally to your audience like you would with a friend one-on-one. Tip number 3 is be open to improvising. Like I said, I watched Colin Mochrie and Brad Sherwood's improvisation show recently, and man, they are good. They are quick on their feet. And I definitely am not. I am honest about the fact that I am not a funny public speaker. But being open to improvisation means that you're open to what may arise and laughing at yourself and what may happen. And that shows authenticity. That shows that you're dropping your guard and therefore your audience can drop their guard. Dude, Colin and Brad, they were given suggestions from the audience, just super random suggestions that they had to act out. So anywhere from having to fly a spaceship to Mars with a chicken to go search for the missing coin of Apollo and come to find out that the coin is no longer there, but there's monkeys. So all these random suggestions from the audience, they had to just act out. And it was hilarious because they were messing up, but just going with the flow. And so just thinking about being open to improvising and going with the flow, especially if you're bringing up volunteers to work with you and interact with the audience. You might be taking questions from the audience. You might be bringing up volunteers. So be open to whatever may happen and being open to laughing at yourself and therefore laughing with the audience. Tip number 4 that I've gotten from being a theater goer is walking the stage. Whenever I speak in front of a live audience, I try not to stay behind the podium or the table. I like to walk around and whether it's forward or backwards, engage with the audience, make eye contact. And that way it keeps everyone awake on their toes, and I'm able to make a connection with each and every person in the audience. If it's a bigger audience, you might not be able to make eye contact with each and every person, and you might have lights on you so you can't see everyone in the audience, but still work the stage, walk to the different sides, walk forward, walk back, and that way you're able to be more engaging with the audience instead of just staying put in one place. Also, it's important, just like you learn on stage, not to turn your back to the audience unless there's a purpose for it. So oftentimes I walk forward, walk backwards, walk sideways so that my back is not to the audience, but I'm still working the crowd. And the last tip for this Wow Me Wednesday video is to be carefree like a child. Watching Sound of Music took me back to when I was 7 years old. I watched the movie with Julie Andrews, dozens of times with my friends, and we would sing and act it out. We would record ourselves singing, Nobody Solves a Problem Like Maria, and my favorite things on our boom boxes, and we'd press play and record on our boom boxes, and we would just be so carefree and have fun. And so I want to remind you that even though you're giving a presentation, it could be really important for work, or it could be really fun for a networking event, a way to show your personality. Make sure you do have fun with it and show your true, authentic self. And at moments, be carefree. So I hope these tips were helpful for you tonight. If you would like to keep in touch and get my latest videos and some other tips from me, please visit my website, jessicachangconsulting.com, and leave me your email address so we can keep in touch and I can send you all my latest tips and valuable lessons. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next week.